möchte erstmal so sagen. Honorable delegates, dear guests, please take your seats. The opening ceremony will begin in a few minutes. May the House please come to order. May the House please come to order. The opening ceremony will start now. We welcome you all to the 24th session of the Oldenburg Model United Nations. To start, we would like to introduce ourselves. My name is Sophia Patricia Bieling, and I am this year's President of the General Assembly.
And my name is Chubelishe Kimbelignoni, and I am this year's Deputy President of the General Assembly, and together we will guide you through this opening ceremony.
We'd like to say a special welcome to our guests from Morocco and from Turkey. Thank you for taking on the long journey to participate at OLMUN 2025. Additionally, a very warm welcome to Svenja Hahn and Christine Wolf, our guest speakers for this ceremony. As of right now, the dress code is in full effect, meaning all of you are required to wear your jackets and keep them on during the entire opening speech ceremony. Furthermore, note passing is now in order, meaning you can write formal notes in preparation for the committee session to your fellow delegates. Additionally, we would like to remind each and every one of you that this is a simulation of the model of the United Nations, and as such, we do not take a political stance. Please be mindful of this and do not attempt to boycott certain topics and countries, as it is not professional and disrupts the procedure greatly. If you do try to do such things, there will be consequences. For instance, if you choose to walk out of the session for a certain opening speech, you will not be allowed back in. We will begin with the roll call, where we will call up every nation in alphabetical order. As you hear your delegation's name, raise your placard high and state present loudly. May there be order in the House? Now? We will call you up and afterwards you will raise your placards. Albania? Is Albania present? Raise your placards and state present. Albania is present. Algeria? Angola? Antigua and Barbuda? Okay. Argentina? Armenia? Please always stay present. Australia? Austria? Azerbaijan? Bahamas? Bahrain? Bangladesh? Barbados? Belarus? Belgium? Belize? Benin? Bhutan? Bolivia? Bosnia and Herzegovina? Botswana? Is Botswana present? Is Botswana present? Okay. Brazil? Brunei Darussalam? Bulgaria? Burkina Faso? Burundi? Cabo Verde? Cambodia? Cameroon? Canada? Central African Republic? Central African Republic? Not present. Chad? Chile? China? Colombia? Congo? Costa Rica? Côte d'Ivoire? Croatia? Cuba? Cyprus? Czech Republic? Denmark? Djibouti? Dominican Republic? Democratic People's Republic Korea? Democratic Republic Congo?
Ecuador, Egypt, El Salvador, Is El Salvador present? El Salvador is present. Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Estonia, Eswatini, Ethiopia, Fiji, Finland, France, Gabon, Gambia, Georgia, Germany, Ghana. Is Ghana present? Ghana is not present. Greece, Guatemala, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Guyana, Haiti. Is Haiti present? Haiti is not present. Honduras. May you please state present loudly. Honduras. Hungary. Is Hungary in the house? Iceland. India. Indonesia. Iran. Iraq. Ireland, Israel, Italy, Jamaica, Japan, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Kenya, Kiribati, Kuwait, Kyrgyzstan, Lao People's Democratic Republic, Latvia. Is Latvia in the house? Lebanon, Lesotho, Liberia, Libya, Liechtenstein, Lithuania, Lithuania is not present. Luxembourg, Madagascar, Madagascar is not present. Malawi, Malaysia, Maldives, Mali, Mauritania, Mexico, Mexico is not present. Republic of Moldova, Monaco, Mongolia, Montenegro is not present. Morocco, Mozambique, Myanmar, Namibia, Nepal, Netherlands, New Zealand, Nicaragua, Nigeria, North Macedonia, Norway, Oman, Pakistan, Panama, Papua New Guinea. We request order in the House. Paraguay, Peru, Philippines, Poland, Portugal, Qatar, Republic of Korea, Romania, Russia, Rwanda, Saudi Arabia, Senegal, Serbia, Sierra Leone, Singapore, Slovakia, Slovenia, Solomon Islands, Somalia, South Africa, South Sudan, Spain, Sri Lanka, Sudan, Suriname, Sweden, Switzerland, Syrian Arab Republic, United Republic of Tanzania, Thailand, Timor-Leste, Togo, Turkey, Uganda, Ukraine, United Arab Emirates, United Kingdom, United States of America, Uruguay, Uzbekistan, Vanuatu, Venezuela, Vietnam, Yemen, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Amnesty International, Blue Shield International, Endangered Language Alliance, International Maritime Organization, African Union, European Union, Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, M23, Permanent Observer Mission of the State of Palestine. Is there any delegation present that has not been called out? Botswana, you have been recognized. Ghana has been called out and Ghana was not present. Okay. Central African Republic was called out. No one was present. During this next segment, note passing is not in order. Therefore, I ask the House to please come to an end. Not an end. Please settle down. God. In this next segment, note passing is not in order. Staff members, please take your positions. Please go back to your positions. Now we will continue with a speech by our Secretary General, Emily Rossop. Her OLMUN journey began in the year 2022 as a delegate in the UNHRC. In year 2023, she joined the Inner Circle, serving as entertainment manager and trust person, gaining insight into the dedication behind the conference. Thereafter, elected as Deputy Secretary General in 2024, working closely with the previous Secretariat. Now, as Secretary General of OLMUN 2025, she's honored to create an unforgettable OLMUN experience for all participants, planning and organizing to ensure a smooth procedure for this year's conference, as well as guiding the Inner Circle in the process. So let us please give a warm welcome to Emily Rossop. I yield the floor to the Honorable Secretary General.
Esteemed delegates, honorable presidency and chairs, dear MUN directors and guests, standing in front of you today as the Secretary General of OLMUN 2025 is both an honor and something that I would have never imagined 4 years ago when I first participated in this conference. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Hence, I welcome all of you to the 24th session of our annual OLMUN Model United Nations Conference. In the name of the Secretariat, I would especially like to express our sincere gratitude to our patron Svenja Hahn and the Mayoress of Oldenburg, Christine Wolf, for taking the time to be here today, demonstrating the importance of political engagement. I would also like to thank the entire Inner Circle, the chairs, and the rest of the Secretariat for investing so much time and effort into organizing this year's conference. It has been a pleasure working with all of you. Furthermore, I would like to say thank you to all the teachers for their patience and understanding in the face of the inevitable challenges posed by a student-run event such as OLMUN. And lastly, I would like to thank you, the delegates, for making the journey to Oldenburg. Without you, our conference would not be what it is today. Since 2001, students from all over the world have come to Oldenburg to take part in meaningful debates, hoping to turn their aspirations into reality. The new millennium began 1 year prior to our conference, bringing with it both fear of the challenges ahead and hope for a fresh start. Now, a quarter of a century later, it seems there's a lot more fear and uncertainty than hope. And how could there be when the news report one crisis after the next every single day, ranging from climate disasters and human rights violations to outright war and armed conflicts? It presents an impossible challenge to judge what is most relevant right now because of the number of crises that occur, seeming to grow and develop daily. It would be easy to become lost in uncertainty and hopelessness entirely. Therefore, I'm particularly delighted to see so many young people wanting to educate themselves on politics and participate in debates on critical issues. I would like to point out that we have the honor of welcoming almost 1,100 people here at OLMUN 2025, more participants than ever before at our conference. Especially at a time like this, when extremism and fascism seem to be on the rise, it is vital that the young generations learn critical thinking skills, develop interest in topical issues, and partake in exchange. Because the future is ours, we have to accept this responsibility. We have to learn how to deal with it. Open exchange is beginning to falter, as we can see from the current situation in the United States. Between the dismantling of the Constitution, misinformation, as well as increasingly strained international relations, one of the most powerful countries on the planet has unraveled the global stability, which is a concern for all of us. The United Nations were founded 80 years ago, primarily for one purpose: peace between all nations, so that mankind would never have to experience the horrors that the two world wars had inflicted upon them. And yet, here we are, the ongoing war in Ukraine and Gaza. Thousands have to fear for their lives every single day, as well as in Myanmar. There is no peace in sight. On this note, I would like to mention an inspiring woman who has sadly passed away only a few weeks ago, Margot Friedländer. Born in 1921, she was in her late teens when World War II began, the same age most of you might be right now. Being of Jewish heritage, she was persecuted, survived a concentration camp and the Holocaust. She had so much taken from her, but she never stopped fighting for peace, even at the age of 103. This woman is an example to us all. Among other forms of campaigning, she often visited schools to speak to young adults. I would like to include a quote. "What I do now is for the youth. They have to know we can't change anything that has happened, but it can never happen again. I cannot emphasize it enough. It is our responsibility to act, to not stand by and watch. It is up to us to demonstrate the importance of diplomacy and peaceful interaction. We must fight for constructive debate in order to re-establish international law. And that is what you will do here. In your committees, the topics include women's health and the discriminative research on it, the handling of private data, sustainable forest management, and the reducing armaments. Therefore, I now wish you a week of fruitful debates and lots of fun during the committee sessions and our evening activities. Please enjoy your stay here in Oldenburg and have an amazing conference week. I hereby declare OLMUN 2025 for officially opened. Thank you very much. I give the floor back to the presidency.
We thank our Secretary General for her great speech. We'd also like to remind you to please switch off all your phones or at least set them in silent mode during the opening ceremony. And now, we would like to present this year's opening video.
Americans have known surprise attacks, but never before on thousands of civilians. All of this was brought upon us in a single day, and night fell on a different world, a world where freedom itself is under attack.
2-year no yields went from 190 to 166 in the blink of an eye.
On the NASDAQ, everything and more has been completely wiped out.
It was the worst day on Wall Street since the crash of 1987.
The science has made it plainly clear. Even a 2 degrees Celsius rise will have serious consequences for food and water security, economic stability, and international peace and security.
By 2050, pollution may be so bad, there might not be fresh air to breathe.
There are downright apocalyptic images coming out of Australia right now as the country's battling hundreds of fires that have burned across the country for months now.
Why are you so angry? I'm angry. We will not forever. 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 Enough is enough.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus.
The Italian government tonight put the entire country on lockdown.
Everywhere we look, peace is under attack. From Gaza to Sudan to Ukraine and beyond, we see civilians in the firing line, homes blown apart, traumatized, terrified populations who have lost everything and sometimes everyone. And this catalogue of human misery must stop. Our world needs peace. Peace is the ultimate prize for all humanity. The solutions are in our hands. Cultivating a culture of peace means replacing division, disempowerment, and despair with justice, equality, and hope for all. It means focusing on preventing conflict, propelling the Sustainable Development Goals, promoting human rights, and tackling all forms of discrimination and hate. This month's Summit of the Future is a vital opportunity to advance these aims. Let's seize it. Together, let's lay the groundwork for peace, and let's nurture a culture where equality, peace, and justice thrive.
Before we begin with our first set of opening speeches, we would like to introduce us, the Secretariat. The Secretariat consists of the main organizers of the OLMUN, from left to right, the Deputy President of the General Assembly, Tubeliche Kimberly-Nyoni, the President of the General Assembly, Sophia Patricia Bieling, the Secretary General, Emily Rossop, the Deputy Secretary General, Jannika Ewe, and the Treasurer, Jakob Eriksen. Despite the fact that all these positions have different key focuses, the Secretariat can be consulted for any issue and concern you might have. You can recognize us from our black badges. We will now hear the first set of opening speeches. For each set, we will call up 6 or 7 delegates to present their speeches, all of whom have previously agreed to hold a speech. Clapping is only in order after each set of opening speeches. Only leave the stage after the entire set is finished. After each set of opening speeches, we will allow up to 3 rights of reply. Each speech may only be referred to once. Such replies may not exceed 30 seconds, are not to be posed as a question, and must refer to only one of the preceding opening speeches only. There will be no dialogue between delegates in the process. If we hit with our hammer once, you have already spoken 30 seconds, meaning you have 15 seconds left. We will hit with our hammers twice if you have 10 seconds left, signaling you to come to your closing remarks. After 45 seconds, you will be asked to yield the floor. Note passing is in order during opening speeches. If you have not sent an opening speech prior to the conference, but still wish to deliver a speech, you will get the chance to speak at the very end of the conference. Now, would the delegations of 1 to 6 please approach the stage? Switzerland, South Korea, South Africa, Russia, Guyana, and Brazil. Delegate of Switzerland, you now have the floor.
Hello, guten Tag, bonjour, buongiorno. Honorable Chair, fellow delegates, Switzerland is honored to stand among nations today, not just to debate, but to listen, to collaborate, and to lead with reason and respect. Our world faces deep inequality, conflict, and displacement. These challenges are complex, but not beyond our grasp. As nations, we must rise above division and work together, not just for temporary solutions, but for lasting peace and dignity. Switzerland believes neutrality is not silence, it is responsibility. We are here to engage, support humanitarian efforts, and build bridges where others build walls. Dankeschön, merci beaucoup, grazie. Thank you.
Please yield the floor back.
We yield the floor back to the presidency.
By the way, again, clapping is only in order after each set, meaning after all of the 6 people there have done their opening speeches. Please keep that in mind. Thank you, Delegate. The Delegate of South Korea, you now have the floor.
Dear Presidency, honorable delegates, while globalization brings prosperity to many, it also makes us all face issues. As a nation believing in the values of the United Nations, such as shared prosperity, freedom, human rights, and democracy, we are very touched by inequality, disappearance of cultures, climate change, and rising military conflict all over the globe. Therefore, the Republic of Korea seeks international collaboration with the aim of minimizing these terrible challenges the world of today faces in order to promote economic growth and education to decrease inequalities, as well as secure a good future for the generations to come. We look forward to discussing different solutions in the interest of making our world a better place. Thank you. I yield back to the presidency.
Thank you, Delegate. The delegation of South Africa, of Japan, delegation of which delegation is on the stage right now? Is it Japan or South Africa? May one of you please approach the podium and tell me which delegates are there? We'll continue with Russia. The delegate of Russia, you have the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear delegates, dear presidents, the Russian Federation welcomes today's meeting as an expression of our shared responsibility for peace, security, and justice in international order. In time of rising threat of fascism, it's important to challenge it at every turn. Despite all challenges, the United Nations remains the central forum for dialogue between nations, for search for compromises, and for the protection of international order. The guiding principle behind our policy is the safeguarding of international peace and security. We need to prevent conflicts with political solutions together. We consider the respect for the international affairs of sovereign states to be fundamental tenet of international law. Thank you, delegates and presidents. The delegation of Russian Federation remains committed to constructive dialogue and cooperation within this esteemed body. We thank you for your attention. We yield the floor back to the presidents.
No clapping is in order, and whatever that was, that is also not in order. Do you have the delegate of Guyana there? You have the floor.
Dear Madam President, honorable guests, and esteemed delegates, at this critical milestone in our century, the Cooperative Republic of Guyana is ever more committed to turning aspirations into reality. Climate change continues to threaten our low-lying coasts, while millions remain displaced due to violence and natural disasters. Human rights and food security must no longer be an ambition, they must become a reality. Guyana has established its low-carbon development strategy, 2030, invested over $100 billion in agriculture to enhance sustainability, and offered increased social assistance programs to support our population. We urge the global community to strengthen multilateral cooperation. These issues transcend borders and demand united, urgent action. Thank you. We yield the floor back to the President.
Thank you, Delegate, again. Clapping is not in order. The delegate of Brazil, the floor is yours.
Most esteemed presidency, fellow delegates, and honorable guests. As one of the biggest democracies worldwide, Brazil has a unique outlook on the international political playing field. Today, we want to encourage all delegates to cooperation, forgiveness, and a solution-oriented approach. Especially in the face of conflict, it is these values that have made the world a better place. If we manage to employ these principles instead of turning away from opposition, we might just be able to achieve something truly great in the upcoming days. With this in mind, we will be able to turn our aspirations of peace and the implementation of human rights for everybody into reality. The delegation wishes for fruitful debates. Muito obrigado. Thank you very much. The floor is yielded.
Thank you, delegate. Which delegate has not spoken yet? May you please approach the podium first? Yeah, please. The delegate of South Africa, you have the floor now. Where's South Africa?
Dear Mr. President, honorable chairs, distinguished delegates. The delegation of South Africa stands before you today with one goal summarized in one word, namely Ubuntu, meaning I am because we are in Zulu. The U, universal access to care. Biodiversity, U, unity of cultural assets, N, neutrality and defense, T, trade fairness, and to conclude, U, unison. We're looking forward to collaborate with other nations to thrive on a global level. Thank you. We would like to yield the floor back to the President.
Thank you, delegate. We are sorry for messing up the slides. You may yield the floor now. Is there any delegation wishing to exercise their right of reply? Yes, please. Sorry, that's totally my mistake. Japan, you now have the floor.
Dear Mrs. President, esteemed chairs, distinguished delegates, vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare. This Japanese proverb captures the heart of today's theme, from aspirations to reality. It reminds us that hope alone is not enough. We must act with clarity, purpose, and direction. Imperialism is a threat to all nations' sovereignty, and attacks on it must be refuted by the free world. Nations must have the ability to defend themselves so that borders can stay upheld in Asia and in the world. Let us rise to the problems of today and tomorrow together, not only as representatives of nations, but as custodians of a shared future. Let us ensure our actions match our ideals. And let us move forward, not in daydreams and not in chaos, but with vision and resolve. I yield the floor back to the presidency.
Thank you, delegate. Is there any delegation wishing to exercise their right of reply? Pakistan, you've been recognized. Libya has been recognized. Pakistan. Pakistan, you may approach one of the mics there and exercise your right of reply.
The delegation of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan wants to use its right of reply to Russia and say that if Russia really wants peace and wants to stop the rise of fascism, they should withdraw from their aggressive war in Ukraine, where people are suffering and where the peace of the world is harmed. I yield the floor back to the presidency.
Clapping is not in order. Libya.
I'm Libya. Wait, sorry. So Guyana mentioned the low-carbon development strategy of 2030. Could the delegate of Guyana elaborate on these key elements?
No questions are entertained. This is not to be posed in form of the question.
Apologies.
Please. Thank you. You may leave the stage now. You guys can leave the stage now. Thank you very much. Now I kindly ask Ms. Svenja Hahn to approach the stage. Svenja Hahn is this year's OLMUN Patron. She has been a member of the Free Democratic Party of Germany since her youth and has been actively involved ever since, discovering her interest in European politics along the way. In 2019, she was the Young Liberals' lead candidate of the European Parliament elections and has been a member of the European Parliament since 2019. Since last year, Svenja Hahn has been the chair of the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats for Europe, ALDE, the European Liberal Party. As an umbrella organization representing Europe's liberals, ALDE comprises 72 member parties and 38 countries across Europe that share liberal and democratic values. In May this year, she was elected Deputy Federal Chairwoman of the Free Democrats and has since played an active role in shaping the party in Germany. Her core areas are foreign affairs, the economy, politics, and the single market. One note again, note passing is not in order. May all the staffs take their positions now. That being said, we are deeply honored to have Svenja Hahn as this year's esteemed patron. Ms. Hahn, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, President. And thank you very much, delegates, for the warm welcome. I don't see a lot right now because the lights are very much blinding me right now, but I've seen how incredibly full this room is. And I had the privilege to listen a bit to you. And that being said, it's such an honor to be joining you. And it's so incredible that you guys are all coming here together from over the world, bringing your passion and idea on shaping the future. I started my career in youth politics. Actually, the very first encounter I had with the political life was not a model UN, but a model local parliament, very much on the local level in the leading council of the hometown I grew up in. So a bit of a smaller scale than what you are doing today. But it really impressed me and left a mark on me and inspired me to wanting to go into politics, to actually make a difference for the better. I don't know what your motivation is to be here today, to be active on a political aspect. Maybe some of you are even active in parties, or you're fighting in a youth movement or in a civil organization movement. Because I'm fairly certain that all what you have in common is a drive and a desire to make the world a better place. I joined politics because I was upset. When I started university, there was a big strike, students demanding more money for education. And that was something I was on board with. But I was not agreeing with their means on blocking the university halls because I was thinking, you're not making education better by keeping other students away from getting one. But I was thinking to myself, at least they are taking actions. Who are you to complain about others if you are not taking your future into your own hands? And that, for me, was the moment I decided to be active in politics. That is when I, in my case, decided to join the Liberal Party and become active in the youth wing. And that really left a mark on me. I was the president of the Young Liberals in Europe. I was a board member for quite some time. In those 6 years in the youth leadership, I traveled through 35 European countries. I campaigned for abortion rights in Poland. I did some door knocking in Ireland. I visited a refugee camp in Greece. I was protesting for press freedom in Malta. And during this journey, I met a lot of young people all over Europe, driven by the passion to make a difference in their home country or for Europe, driven by the desire to leave a mark, by the hope that the future can be better than the present feels like. And during that time, I learned how different the realities of life are as a young person. I myself was born just before the fall of the Iron Curtain, 3 months before the Berlin Wall came down. I only know a Western Europe that I grew up in. I only know an ever more united Europe. But getting to know more young people from all over Europe really changed my impression. It really made me understand better how different the realities of life in many different countries, in many different regions are. And I full-heartedly believe that Europe and the idea of coming together lives from events like this, where we come together, where we learn about each other, where we grow our perspective. I only knew war as something from the stories of my grandparents. But suddenly, I had friends that in the 90s grew up in war-torn Balkan countries, that knew how it was if you had to seek shelter while sitting in your school, learning how to write. And suddenly, after the full-scale invasion of Russia, I had friends with which half a year earlier I was still being at a congress, having a drink at a bar, and half a year later, they went to defend their country. They went to the front line, fighting for peace, fighting for democracy, fighting for the existence of their country. And suddenly, I had people, friends my age, that were fighting in a war, and I had acquaintances or friends that died in a war. And I'm 35 years old. I never thought that this is something that I would firsthand experience. 3 weeks ago, I was in Ukraine. We were in the regions that were occupied. We spoke to people that were occupied, that lived under Russian occupation, that were tortured, kept in basements for a whole month, with very little food, no personal hygiene, no space. That is the reality in Europe right now, and that is also a reality in many other countries all over the world. Europe and the world is at a very difficult turning point. The conflict of our time is between autocracy and democracy. And I absolutely do believe that you believe in democracy, that you believe in international cooperation, that you believe in dialogue, in coming together and finding a solution together. And that means working very closely with our democratic partners, but that also means talking to those that we do not agree with. And I think it is so important that though we do not know how the future of the world will look like, or maybe because we do not know how the future of the world will look like, that we increase the dialogue. I absolutely believe we need to fight for democracy. We need to fight for international cooperation. Because when we have the feeling that the world is somehow crumbling down, we cannot just sit idly by and watch the world go down in flames. I think everyone that believes in cooperation, that believes in democracy, and that believes that the world can be a better place, all of us, we need to come together and do our part. I try to do my part in the European Parliament, to work for a better world. I personally work in the committees of international trade and single market. I believe economic cooperation strengthens us. More trade with more partners makes the European Union stronger. But there are so many policy fields we need to come together. And diplomacy is the key of finding solutions together. And though we see that how diplomacy worked in the last decades, we do not know if those words or those means will be the same in the future. Certainties, how we work together with other states, are very uncertain right now. Partners that used to be partners for many years are now unstable, unreliable. There are a lot of geopolitical changes. But I think what will always remain is that we need diplomacy, that we need forums like the UN where we can come together, where we can find solutions together with friends, with enemies, with partners. Because without diplomacy, without dialogue, the world will be a terrible place. I think we always need to do our utmost to come together. And that is why it was such an honor for me to take over and be with you this year. Because I absolutely do believe this is the way to go. I don't know what path you will choose. Maybe you will one day become a diplomat. Maybe you will become a politician. Maybe you will work in the business sector. But I think the spirit that you're learning here, the spirit that you're taking away, will shape you in your career to come. I started with a very small model parliament. Maybe this is your starting point for whatever path you're choosing. But whatever it is you will take away from here, it will leave a mark on you. It will leave a mark on your heart, and it will leave a mark on your brain. And I absolutely do hope that you have the opportunity to make friendships here. Because I believe the world will only grow a better place if we have friends, if we have acquaintances from all over the world, if we have more understanding for each other, if we're willing to actually listen to each other, to listen to each other's arguments, and to come together to find a solution. And I particularly say this as a European parliamentarian. I think the European Union and the European Parliament is the best example how enemies can turn into partners, can turn into friends, can turn into very close allies. And I absolutely do believe the European Union is the stronghold for freedom and democracy. And that is why I believe we need to be a lighthouse in Europe for the rest of the world, fighting, defending democracy, defending freedom, and standing up for democratic values and principles. And I know you have the interesting or maybe the tough role. Some of you are delegates for democratic countries. Some of you are delegates for countries that are under war or that are aggressors in a war. Or some of you are representatives for a religious state, or for a democratic state, or an authoritarian state. Most of you maybe not will present their own opinion, but what a great opportunity this is to learn, to understand, and to do your part to maybe make the world a better place in the future. Thank you so much for having me. I do absolutely wish you fruitful debates, maybe the time of your lives, and I really hope that you always think back about this and take something home to, well, shape the world a little bit day by day, because all together, if one of us makes a difference, the world will be a different place. So I do wish you a lot of success stories here, and a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Ms. Svenja. Ms. Svenja Hahn, thank you very much for your wonderful speech. We would like to express our sincerest gratitude for you to take the time to be here. Please remain on the stage for a bit. As we move on to this next segment, note passing is still not in order. Okay. Keen readers of our conference guide may have noticed that Jürgen Krogman was listed as one of our guest speakers. Unfortunately, he will not be joining us as he has a previous engagement. However, in his place, we would like to welcome Oldenburg's Mayoress, Christine Wolff. We kindly ask the Mayoress to please approach the stage to deliver her speech, and we thank her for her dedication to fostering dialogue with the youth.
Most Honorable Presidency and Secretary General, distinguished delegates and MUN directors, dear guests. On behalf of the City of Oldenburg and our Lord Mayor Jürgen Krogman, I warmly welcome you here in Oldenburg. And we are in Oldenburg, and there are some points Oldenburg is a bit special. So I don't want to forget to mention that, I will say, most important word here in our town, and that word is moin. Maybe you have heard it, and if you need further information, please ask the locals. As a mayoress of our city, I'm proud to be here, and I believe I'm in the right place at the right time. A short explanation at that point for our guests. We have our Lord Mayor, who is the head of the administration, and we have 3 honorary mayoresses for representative tasks. Yes, you have heard right. There are 3 women for that tasks in Oldenburg. They represent the Lord Mayor when he is unavailable, as is the case now. He would have loved to be here and sends you his best regards. I have been connected to OLMUN for a long time and have witnessed the impressive lineup of speakers. Hannah Naber, today President of the Lower Saxony State Parliament, David McAllister, former Prime Minister of Lower Saxony, and Annalena Baerbock, Germany's former Foreign Minister. My personal connection to OLMUN is related to my daughter. Her name is Alexandra, and she graduated in 2018 from high school. Alexandra had been participating in OLMUN since she was in year 9, and I remember her first steps into your community very well. Initially, she was proud to be an assistant and worked hard to improve her English. Eventually, she became a committee member as a chairperson. I accompanied her during that initial period, and I know that some of you have similar stories to tell. I'm proud of you all and greatly admire your dedication. OLMUN has been taking place in Oldenburg for 24 years now. This long period of time demonstrates how much our city values it. OLMUN has become an integral part of our calendar, and Oldenburg is unimaginable without it. One reason why we estimate OLMUN so much is our conviction that international relations are a precious gift. Oldenburg is a cosmopolitan city that cultivates and promotes its relations with cities all over the world. We understand cultural differences as enrichment, just as diversity in other areas of life. Our goal is to counter discrimination and disadvantage and anything that brings people into exchange with each other is worth supporting. We welcome delegations from all over the world, international groups of students or participants in cross-border cultural projects. At the 21st of June, we'll celebrate the Christopher Street Day in Oldenburg. Its motto is "Together for a strong, colorful symbol of diversity." Oldenburg is widely known for its CSD, and we expect more than 10,000 people for this occasion. As you see, there is a lot going on that contributes to our development as a society, and so does this year OLMUN. The theme of this conference is Quarter of a Century from Aspirations to Reality. And it's true. We neither imagined nor desired this crisis that have hit us within the last 10 years. We wish many things to be different. However, despite the many problems we face, I want to emphasize that there is much worth looking forward to in the future. Face-to-face encounters can help build relationships and create peace and justice. The OLMUN is a best practice example. I hope that you will have many more positive international experiences in your life, and I am confident that you will be a generation that takes care of the world's diverse individuals and its future. Who knows, maybe some of you will even actively shape it one day. Let me close with my best wishes for this year's OLMUN, for your personal future, and with many crucial messages. Don't forget to have fun and enjoy your lives, because only this way can you pass on your joy to others. Have a good time in Oldenburg, and I yield the floor to the
presidency.
Thank you.
We thank you, Ms. Wolf, for your inspiring speech. Please stay on the stage for a moment. As we have come to an end of that segment, note passing is now in order. However, we would still like the House to please settle down. We will now move on to our next set of opening speeches. The delegations of 7 to 12, we kindly ask you to please approach the stage. Algeria, Canada, Gabon, Russia, Somalia, and Spain. Von denen. Yeah, Algeria. Yeah. It was like the PDL piece and I'm sorry. Except like just to explain it all again, after 30 seconds, you'll hear this. That would mean you have 10 seconds, 15 seconds left. However, 10 seconds later, you'll hear this. And that would mean you would have to make your closing remarks. The delegate of Algeria, you now have the floor.
Honorable delegates, esteemed chairs, dear all, we're truly grateful for the opportunity to speak at this prestigious opening ceremony. Our sincere thanks go to the organizers whose hard work has brought this important event to life. The delegation of Algeria is honored to stand before you at the opening of OLMUN, a forum where fruitful dialogue, innovative solutions, and lasting memories are born. Algeria's history has made us deeply aware of the darker chapters of humanity. Having experienced conflict firsthand, our nation understands, perhaps more than most, the devastating consequences of war. Yet, despite the challenges we have faced, we remain certain that through cooperation and mutual respect, peace can be achieved. Although we all represent two different nations, we are, above all, united by our shared humanity. It is on that shared foundation that we believe our true cooperation is not only possible, but essential. Thank you. We yield the floor back to the presidency. Thanks.
Clapping is not in order. The delegate of Canada, you now have the floor.
Madam President, distinguished delegates, today the delegation of Canada stands with full consciousness of the fact that our current world is facing a great number of difficulties. These include the rising effects of climate change, political tensions, as well as humanitarian emergencies, and remind us therefore of the fact that peace, justice, and stability should never be taken for granted. Canada believes in a community held together by the principles of diplomacy, cooperation, and human rights to resolve conflict and a sustainable future for all. More specifically, we shall prioritize the values of an inclusive dialogue and a peaceful negotiation over violence and division. As a diverse nation that values inclusion, justice, and global network, Canada calls upon this assembly to work together in unity and determination. Thank you. I yield the floor back to the President.
Thank you, delegate. The delegate of Gabon, you now have the floor.
Honorable Presidency, esteemed chairs, fellow delegates, dear guests. We are living in a time of change. The importance of international peace, cooperation, and convention is increasingly challenged by some member states present here today. These issues are especially relevant to the younger generation. We face insecurities, doubts, and fears about our future, but this should be the place for hope and ambitions. it is clear that many of us are unable to take significant political influence, which is why conferences like this year's OLMUN are so vital. They offer a unique platform for sharing perspectives and ideas. They let us all remember the values of the United Nations, values that safeguard our freedom. Hold on to them, believe in your dreams, and fight for both. The delegation of Gabon wishes everyone an inspiring and unforgettable OLMUN conference. The delegation of Gabon yields the floor back to the presidency.
Clapping is not in order. Thank you, delegate. The delegate of Russia, you now have the floor.
Dear Presidents, dear delegates, 25 years after the turn of the millennium, we live in a world full of tensions, conflicts, natural disasters, and the constant threat of fascism. The Russian Federation supports the efforts of the United Nations for peace, security, and progress in the spirit of the common responsibility of all states to create a stable world order in which the sovereignty of free states is preserved and strengthened through respect, multilateral cooperation, and the common fight against threats. The United Nations offered space for intercultural dialogue and cooperation in which Russia will make the best possible contribution. We see this event as a step towards a more united world in which all nations work together to find solutions for peace and the well-being of all people.
Please come to your closing remarks.
Thank you. I yield the floor back to the President.
Clapping is not in order. Thank you, delegate. The delegate of Somalia, you now have the floor.
Honorable Presidency, distinguished guests, esteemed delegates. Somalia is a nation long plagued by conflict and instability, knows all too well the dire cost of inaction, but also the moral imperative to raise one's voice in the face of injustice and despair. As we mark a quarter of a century, we clearly see the bitter gap between our highest aspirations and the harsh realities. We must acknowledge the price of conflict, inequality, and injustice. Therefore, we urgently call for the immediate cessation of violence and an unyielding commitment to democratic principles and civic liberties. Yet a world that lives up to its highest ideals demands nothing less than global cooperation and unity. As the Somali saying reminds us...
Please come to your closing remarks.
We certainly will. As the Somali saying reminds us, those who support each other do not fall. We must not fall into
Please
division,
come to your closing remarks.
but rise together in solidarity through cooperation and inclusiveness.
Delegate, that is
Thank you
not
very
in
much.
order.
We yield the floor back to the presidency.
Clapping is not in order. Thank you. The delegate of Spain, you now have the floor.
Dear President, I don't know, closer?
You now have the floor.
Hello. Dear President, honorable chairs, and esteemed delegates, Spain stands here before you today with the firm belief that peace can only exist when justice is served. We take pride in our feminist foreign policy and commitment to human rights. Spain is in deep concern about ongoing crises in Gaza and firmly condemns the violence. We call for aid to those innocent civilians caught in the conflict and for accountability that will lead us toward the path of lasting peace. In today's world, Spain believes in the importance of international cooperation. Por la paz, el clima y los derechos humanos, global challenges require shared responsibility and respect for international law. That is why we urge all nations to build bridges, not walls. Spain is ready to work with all nations together to build a fairer and more united world. Muchas gracias. We yield the floor back to the presidency.
Thank you, delegate. We have now come to an end of the second set of opening speeches. Clapping is now in order. It is now time for the rights of reply. Like said before, we are only entertaining 3 rights of replies per set of opening speeches. Is there any delegation present wishing to make use of said right? Please raise your placards high right now. Austria. You have been recognized. Who's that at the back? Is that the representative state of Palestine? You have been recognized. Who was it? Austria? The delegate of Austria, you now have the floor.
Esteemed delegates. Yeah. Yeah. Esteemed delegates. Excuse me. Yeah, okay. Should you go to the other one? Yeah. Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, the microphone doesn't work. Okay, doesn't matter.
Could you please try the other microphones available?
Hello? Yeah. Hello? Hello? Yeah. The delegation of Austria believes that Russian claims are extremely hypocritical. Yeah. The delegation of...
Please give us a moment.
Hello? Dear delegates.
Yeah. It seems like we are experiencing some technical difficulties. Please be patient and give us a moment.
Ich würde eins von da hinten nehmen. Ich habe das von da hinten genommen. So? Ich habe das von da hinten genommen.
Hello? Hello?
Haben wir noch eins, was wir austauschen
Dear
können?
delegates.
Das hat ja auch gerade nicht funktioniert. Dann probieren wir die nachher nochmal aus.
Yes, it's working. The microphone seems to be working. Please just speak loudly as possible if it's not that high.
The delegation of Austria believes that Russian claims of fighting terrorism and trying to stay for peace are extremely hypocritical in regards to their aggression towards Ukraine. Thank you.
Clapping is not in order. Clapping is not in order, delegates. Yeah. May the representative state of Palestine please exercise their right of reply.
Das eine ist fast leer, aber das andere sollte eigentlich funktionieren.
Der kommt aber ja.
Is it on? Is it on? Hello? Hello? Okay. The delegation of Palestine thanks the delegation of Spain for their humanity and support. We urge other nations to do the same. Free Palestine.
Clapping is not in order as it was not a question. We would like to make clear that a right of reply is exactly the same as a point of information. So it has to be stated as a question, not just a remark. No? Okay. Then Carano. Okay. Thank you, delegates, for holding your opening speeches. May you please return to your seats. Oh my God. We will now be introducing the inner circle. This year, we are again very grateful for the help of the many students behind the scenes who make OLMUN possible. We want to take this moment to introduce the team behind the conference. The chairs. The chairs are leading the committee sessions for each committee. They guide you through sessions, and they are open for any and all questions you might have. Chairs and the inner circle can be recognized from their blue badges. Trust and ombudspersons. In case any of you feel you need help and support with anything that you don't feel comfortable sharing with your chairs, we have established an awareness team consisting of trust persons that are guided by our ombudspersons Nina Hempel and Ida Krause. Our trust and ombudspersons are equipped to help with anything you might be struggling with. The trust and ombudspersons can be recognized through their pink badges and will be visiting your committees frequently.
This year, we have the very special privilege to hear from the real United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. That being said, note passing is not in order. Antonio Guterres is the 9th Secretary General of the United Nations. He is a Portuguese diplomat and former Prime Minister of Portugal. From 2005 to 2015, he served as the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, where he became a leading voice for displaced people and international solidarity. As Secretary General, he continues to call for climate action, conflict prevention, and the protection of human rights.
Dear friends, thank you for taking part in this model United Nations and for believing in the power of global cooperation. You are leaders in your schools and communities, and this is a time like no other for all people to raise their voices and engage in our global community. We are living in turbulent times. Our planet is burning, conflicts are raging, and inequalities are deepening. Human rights are under fire. Mistrust and misinformation are polarizing people and communities, but none of this is inevitable. Time and again, humanity has shown that when we unite to tackle our greatest challenges, change is possible. The United Nations itself is a good example. Since 1945, it has been the place for countries to unite behind global solutions to global problems. We need that same spirit of global solidarity today. And we need your ideas, energy, determination and voice. The Member States of the United Nations recently adopted the Pact for the Future, the Global Digital Compact and the Declaration on Future Generations. These initiatives are designed to strengthen multilateralism and to actively engage young people in deeper and more meaningful ways. I firmly believe that your voices must count in the way decisions are made, strategies are established, policies are defined, and actions are implemented. And I have no doubt that your model United Nations experience will help develop those skills even more. Let's keep working to build peace, heal divisions, and extend a hand to those in need, especially the most vulnerable. The United Nations is your ally in this important journey. We will never give up fighting for a future of peace, dignity, and prosperity for everyone, everywhere. And I'm counting on you to be a force of positive change to help get us there, and I wish you every success. Thank you.
We will now move on with our third set of opening speeches. We kindly ask delegates 13 to 18 to approach the stage. Chad, Ukraine, Denmark, Guinea, Russia, and Niger. Note passing is in order. The delegate of Chad, you have the floor. The floor is yours.
The Republic of Chad is honored to stand before this General Assembly. We come here not only as a country, but as a voice for our people whose future yet to be decided. Chad is wealthy in potential, home to enormous resources, a strong people, and a rising generation of thinkers and builders. We have witnessed the kind of progress that comes with one hand open and the other hiding behind legal jargon, debt-yoked timelines, and broken promises. We are ready to work with all of you to make peace something more than simply the absence of war. To the nations of the world, Chad says, let's build systems where fairness, transparency, and sovereignty are not the exception, they are the expectation. Together, let's design a future that doesn't have all the voices but listens to them. We yield the floor back to the presidency.
Thank you. Right, clapping is not in order. Please remember that. The delegate of Ukraine, the floor is yours.
Dear Presidents, honorable delegates, today we gather to discuss pressing global issues. And for Ukraine, the most urgent is to fight for peace and sovereignty. Firstly, we thank all countries that stood with us. Only with your support can we remain strong and continue to fight for our precious democracy and freedom. Our mission remains clear: to end the war, restore peace, and liberate our occupied territories. Sadly, this can only be achieved through continued international solidarity. We are deeply in your debt and will never forget to let a light in the darkness. Let us take a short moment of silence for our fallen brothers and sisters. Slava Ukraini, thank you. I yield the floor back to the presidency.
Thank you, delegate. Clapping is not in order. Clapping is not in order. Thank you. The delegate of Denmark, the floor is yours.
A quarter of our current century has passed, and we find ourselves in a time where war returned to Europe, and the climate crisis and the rise of autocratic regimes are endangering international cooperation. It is because of that we must put an effort to transform our aspirations of world peace and security into the reality, always remembering that this goal can only be reached by achieving a free and equal society. As one of the founding nations of the UN, the Kingdom of Denmark is committed to these aspirations enshrined in the UN Charter. Forbundne, forpligtede for Kongeriget Danmark. United, committed for the Kingdom of Denmark. We yield the floor back to the presidency.
Clapping is not in order. Thank you, delegate. We yield the floor to Guinea.
Honorable chairs, dear delegates, today we look back on a quarter of a century, 25 years full of development, work and effort in Guinea. We're seeing substantial achievements because more people have a right to education, more we serve medical assistance, and access to drinking water is no longer just a dream, it is a reality. But we have to be honest, still not enough is being done. The need is too great. Millions live in poverty. Hospitals are often overcrowded or underserved. Roads are impassable. But when we stand here today, we're not standing to complain, but to remember what we are fighting for. We fight for the people, because every life counts, because every progress and every development is a gain, because it's our responsibility to make dreams come true. So let us look for promising ideas, let us craft them into solutions, and in this way, be open to fair compromises.
Closing remarks.
Thank you. I yield the floor back to the chairs. Oh my
Thank
God.
you. The delegate of Russia, you now have the floor. Any boycotts are not in order.
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable delegates, honorable presidents, the Russian Federation welcomes today's assembly as an expression of our shared responsibility for security and justice in the international order. We are committed to a world order that reflects political realities. In a world of growing tensions and increasing fascism, it is even more important to deal responsibly with differences and looking for solutions based on realistic approaches. We want to guarantee international security and solve conflicts politically wherever possible. In doing so, we attach particular importance to respect for the internal affairs of sovereign states. Russia is prepared to play a constructive role in the spirit of partnership, not paternalism. Thank you very much. We yield the floor back to the presidents.
Clapping is not in order. Thank you, delegate. The delegate of Niger, the floor is yours.
Dear Presidency, honorable chairs, fellow delegates. This year we have gathered to reflect on our past and rethink our future. Like many of its African brothers, the Republic of Niger has suffered for a long time under foreign nations. Recently, under the guise of charity, those same nations possessed our minds and fed their companies instead of our people. Instead of healing the scars their politics have left us, they were occupied by fueling terrorism. It is time that we become a community of sovereign peoples. We no longer want charity, we want justice. Qu'Allah bénisse le Niger et son peuple. Thank you. The floor is yielded.
Thank you, delegate. Now that we have come to the end of the set, clapping is in order. Is there any delegation wishing to exercise their right of reply? Once again, we will clarify that during the opening ceremony, a right of reply is not to be formulated as a question, it is to be formulated as a statement. Guatemala, you've been recognized. Please approach the microphone.
You want to speak? Yeah. Speak loud.
Okay.
Really loud. Thanks.
Okay. Can I just speak now?
Yeah, I don't know.
We as Guatemala wanted to reply to Russia's opening speech, and we just wanted to address the hypocrisy of this statement, speaking about peace and peaceful negotiations whilst invading another country. Thank you.
Clapping is not in order. Bosnia and Herzegovina, you've been recognized. Approach the microphone.
The delegation of Bosnia and Herzegovina would like to exercise its right of reply to the delegation of Russia. Bosnia and Herzegovina does not appreciate Russia's motivation behind those seemingly good-wishing words about international cooperation. While they are talking about fascism, they are themselves doing very disrespectable acts in the international scene. And the delegation of Bosnia and Herzegovina would also appreciate if Russia did not intervene with Bosnia and Herzegovina's attempts in Euro integration. Thank you.
Barbados, you've been recognized. Delegate, you may speak.
If the delegation of Russia is truly so worried about the rise of fascism, they should take the first step and help to dissolve their government. Thank you. I yield the floor back to the presidency.
Clapping is not in order. Thank you, delegates. You may leave the stage. We will now play you the so-called OLMUN morning show. Every morning of the OLMUN week, you will be provided with the newest version of the show created by our TV team. Let's take a look at the first morning show of OLMUN 2025.
Hello and welcome to OLMUN 2025. This is the morning show. My name is Paula and I will be your host this year. I will be keeping you up to date on everything about this year's OLMUN and I'm looking forward to guiding you through this year's conference. But first, let me introduce you to the people who make OLMUN possible. Our Secretariat and IC members are working very hard to ensure the conference runs smoothly. Here are a few of the faces. Emily Rossop, the Secretary General, Janika Ebel, the Deputy Secretary General, Sophia Patricia Bieling, the President of the General Assembly, Tubeliche Kimberly Nayoni, the Deputy President of the General Assembly, and Jacob Eriksson, the Treasurer of this year's OLMUN. While for most of you, OLMUN has only really started today, the Inner Circle has been on its preparation for the last couple of months. Get ready for a small recap from its latest meetings and a setup of the venues yesterday. As you are watching this, the opening ceremony is slowly coming to an end and marking the start of the 24th OLMUN conference. However, this is not the end of today's activities. At 6 p.m. there will be a female empowerment panel that all participants can take part in this year. The panel will last about an hour and is the last official part of the day. After that, as always, there will be our evening activity, which will best be explained by our entertainment managers.
Hi everyone, I'm Enno and together with Anouk, I'm the entertainment manager for this year's OLMUN. On Tuesday, we will have a big barbecue at the Graf Anton Günther Schule. Start is at 7 p.m. We prepared vegan sausages, soft drinks and good music. We look forward to seeing you.
And don't forget, we have our OLMUN party on Thursday, so buy your tickets at the evening activities.
Of course, we have our team of trust persons that will now be introduced by our ombudspersons Ida Krause and Nina Hempel.
Dear participants, welcome to OLMUN 2025. I'm Nina.
And I'm Ida, and we are this year's ombudspersons. We are here to make sure everyone feels safe, respected and heard during the conference week. We stand for an open, inclusive environment where discrimination, harassment or disrespect have no place. Therefore, we have a zero tolerance policy, and if you ever feel uncomfortable or you feel like you need to talk to someone, feel free to reach out to us directly or via email.
We'll help you find a solution no matter the problem. You can recognize our trust persons by their pink badges or vests. We're also excited to invite you to this Females Empowerment panel taking place this evening at 6 p.m. at the Graf Anton Günther Schule. There you will have the opportunity to hear inspiring stories from women about their career paths, leadership and equality, as well as to ask questions or share your own point of view.
We hope you have an incredible week here at OLMUN, and remember, we are always here if you need us.
See you around and enjoy the conference.
Before we move on, I want to briefly mention the recyclable OLMUN cups we have available. Whenever you take one, you will pay a €2 fee that you get back upon returning the cup. Additionally, for every participant with an OLMUN badge, there will be discounts in several locations all throughout Oldenburg. Make sure to check them out during the breaks and after your committee sessions. These are the venues you can get discounts at: Fritz, Hans im Glück, Café Extrablatt, Vapiano, L'Osteria, Eisbar Mu, Safran, Voiten, Anton Kneipe. For further information, you can look them up in the conference guide, like all other important information surrounding the OLMUN. We also have other OLMUN merch available at the shop during the opening ceremony, any of the evening activities or at the closing ceremony. One of our executive administrative officers will now tell you what we have for sale.
Hello, I'm Johanna, your ex at Odysseer, and this is our merchandise stand. Here you can buy a lot of articles which are great as souvenirs. You can buy those t-shirts for only €10 and as well those pins for free. You can as well buy those tote bags for only €5. If you want to lend your cup, you can do that here for €2. We sell every day at the evening activities, so come and buy your stuff now.
Before we go any further, let's check in with the weather forecast for today. Jacob, what's in store for us today?
Thank you, Paula. Moving on to the weather. Today will be partly sunny, with a high of 23 degrees. There is no rain anticipated. That's your forecast for the day. Stay informed and plan accordingly.
Don't forget to stay up to date through our Instagram, TikTok and blog that you can find at digitaldailyDiplomat.org. There you can see the latest updates and some behind-the-scenes footage. That's all for now. I hope you are just as excited as I am for what this year's OLMUN has in store for us. I will see you tomorrow.
Thank you for our TV team for this.
For our fourth and final officially set of opening speeches, we now ask the delegations 19 to 25 to approach the stage. Panama, Vietnam, Israel, Romania, France, and Cameroon. The delegate of Panama, you now have the floor.
Honorable Ms. President, compañeros delegados, a shrimp that falls asleep is carried away by the current. This translated Panamanian idiom symbolizes this year's theme. Another quarter of a century has passed, 25 years in which we have achieved so much, not as individual country, but as United Nations. However, now shall not be the time to fall asleep, shall not be the time to be that shrimp. Recent events have shown that not only terrorist groups can provoke war, but also thoughtless military threats by global powers. Together, as the UN, we must stay focused on our main purpose, maintaining peace and prosperity throughout the world. Thank you. We yield the floor back to the presidency.
Clapping is not in order. Thank you, delegate. The delegate of Vietnam, you now have the floor.
Honorable chairs, esteemed delegates, Xin Chào. The Socialist Republic of Vietnam is a nation shaped by a long history, rich cultural diversity, and rapid development. Vietnam believes in peaceful cooperation based on mutual respect. We stay committed to the values of the United Nations, including sustainable development, education, cultural preservation, and most importantly, the peaceful settlement of conflict. Right now, we need trust and transparency more than ever. In today's changing world, Vietnam is ready to listen, to learn, and to collaborate with all nations in building a fair global community. Thank you. We yield the floor back to the presidency.
Thank you. The delegate of Israel, you now have the floor.
Dear Presidents, dear delegates, Israel welcomed this assembly as an important forum for dialogue and cooperation in an increasingly unstable world. As we face terrorism, anti-Semitism, and geopolitical tensions, Israel remains committed to the protection of freedom, security, and cultural diversity. We believe that international cooperation must be based on mutual respect, realism, and clear principles, including the respect for national sovereignty and the defense of democratic values. Israel stands ready to act constructively, not with accusations, but with solutions for peace, stability, and a more just future. Thank you. And with that, I yield the floor back to the presidents.
Clapping is not in order. Thank you, delegate. We would like to ask the House to please settle down during opening speeches so that everybody could get the chance to hear what the respected delegates have to say. The delegate of Romania, you now have the floor. Is it Romania?
Dear Mrs. President, honorable delegates, our today's meeting marks a remarkable milestone, a quarter of the 21st century. While there are many achievements we may take pride in that we could witness throughout these years, we must also acknowledge the pressing challenges that continue to confront us. Ongoing wars, economic hardships, hunger, and other urgent issues remain at the forefront of global concern and form the core of today's discussion. Romania warmly invites all delegates to engage in a peaceful, respectful, and constructive dialogue. Through open-minded and reasoned exchange, we hope to explore new perspectives and work together toward effective, consensus-based solution to the complex problems of our time. Vă mulțumesc pentru atenție. I yield the floor back to the presidency.
Clapping is not in order. Thank you. The delegate of France, you now have the floor.
Dear Mr. President, honorable delegates, current affairs show us how important it is to secure peace. Even today, in the 21st century, there are wars and conflicts all around the world, even in Europe. Those problems have to be solved by global powers. France supports peace together with other world powers like the G7. All of us are interested in fostering peace and enhancing safe multilateral trade. This is a joint task. In conclusion, we act according to our axiom, liberté, égalité, fraternité. Thank you. I yield the floor back to the President.
Thank you. Delegate, clapping is not in order. And it has been brought to our attention that flying airplanes are being thrown up around. That is not in order, delegates. Oh my God. And staff members, Paper airplanes are not allowed to be flown around during the opening ceremony or anywhere. Thank God. The delegate of Cameroon, you now have the floor.
Dear Ms. President, honorable delegates and chairs, representing the Republic of Cameroon, a nation where around 250 languages and cultures coexist, we stand as a living example of diversity and unity. In times of crisis and division, Cameroon calls for a renewed global spirit of solidarity. Our people have long understood that peace is not naturally given. It's built instead, through cooperation, education, and mutual respect. Whether we debate development, climate, or global security, we have to remember no country can succeed alone. As we say in Cameroon, rain does not fall on one roof alone. Let us act all together because the storm affects us all. Thank you. I yield the floor back to the presidency.
Thank you, delegate. Now that this set of opening speeches is over, clapping is now in order. We will now move on to right of reply. Is there any delegation wishing to exercise their right of reply? Again, we will only be entertaining 3 rights of replies. Egypt was first. Iraq hasn't spoken. Iraq and Pakistan. The delegations of Egypt, Iraq, and Pakistan, you have been recognized. The delegates of Egypt, you now have the floor.
We would like to remind the delegation of Israel that while they definitely have the right for self-defense against Hamas, ethnical cleansing in the Gaza Strip and blocking humanitarian aid does exceed this right of self-defense and is in clear conflict with international law. Thank you.
Clapping is not in order. Thank you, delegate. The delegate of Iraq, you now have the floor. Is that Iraq?
In reply to Israel. We see your words, but we don't see your actions. You speak of peace while bringing suffering. You speak of peace while bringing suffering and injustice to our brothers and sisters. How can an oppressor talk about peace?
Clapping is not in order. Clapping is not in order. The delegation of Pakistan, you now have the floor.
Yes.
Is this Pakistan?
This one is not on.
Okay, yeah. During this segment, may all delegates be seated down.
To the delegation of Israel, how dare you complain about anti-Semitism while actively committing genocide against all Muslim kind in Palestine? You are the very evil you claim to destroy. We yield the floor.
Clapping is not in order. Clapping is not in order, delegates. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, delegates, for presenting your opening speeches. You may now leave the stage. Clapping is now in order. Yeah, I know. Now for this next segment, note passing is not in order. Note passing is not in order. May all the staffs please take their positions.
Dear delegates, I'm honored to speak to you today as a representative of Amnesty International in Germany. Over the next few days, you will engage with some of the most pressing challenges of our time, in a world where human rights are under threat and where the legitimacy of international institutions is being questioned. At its core, the work of Amnesty International is about standing in solidarity with those who are fighting for their rights, often at great personal risk. We believe that international instruments, including those of the United Nations, must serve as instruments to support them and to hold states accountable to their obligations under international law. But this belief is not blind. We also demand urgent reform. We must insist on the equal rights of all people and protect individuals and groups from abuses of power. States must recognize that the current international order continues to be shaped by colonialism, slavery, and systemic oppression. That means embracing real reform, including of institutions like the UN Security Council, and giving up privileges that perpetuate global injustice. Amnesty International works within these systems because we know that despite their limitations, they can offer platforms for pressure, accountability, and change. One example is the Arms Trade Treaty, which became international law after more than 20 years of campaigning by Amnesty International and partner NGOs. It was designed to stop deadly weapons from falling into the hands of those who would use them to commit human rights violations. The treaty can help save lives, but only if it is properly implemented and if states are held accountable when they breach it. We also advocate for UN investigative mechanism as a first step to document atrocities and lay the groundwork for justice. We have supported such mechanisms in Iran, Sudan, Ukraine, Venezuela, and Syria. At the same time, our calls for accountability often fall silent when states use international forums to shield their allies or to pursue narrow national interests at the expense of universal human rights. One example is how the international community continues to fail the people in the occupied Palestinian territories. It is a betrayal of the victims of the atrocities and of the International Criminal Court when heads of governments court Netanyahu instead of handing him over to the ICC. Human rights advocacy is also about addressing violations at home. Germany, for example, must live up to its obligations in cases like the police killing of Lorenz A. here in Oldenburg. We echo the call of the UN Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination for decisive actions against systemic racism, including within law enforcement. Defending existing human rights frameworks is not enough. We must evolve them to dismantle the systems of oppression they were often built around, and to better serve those most affected by systemic and intersectional discrimination. This includes addressing the legacies of colonialism and slavery, not as historical footnotes, but as ongoing realities that demand reparative justice. Change does not come easily. It never has. But history has shown us that transformation is possible when people raise their voices, challenge power, and refuse to give up. That is what I ask of you. As you represent your country here at the Model United Nations, think about the real people your decisions and actions would affect. Because, dear delegates, human rights need people. Thank you.
That was Beate Streicher, who has been serving as a legal advisor on policing and human rights and international law at Amnesty International Germany since the year 2021. She successfully passed both German state legal examinations and has gained experience at the German Constitutional Court, the European Parliament, and the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. Okay. For our fifth set of opening speeches, we will now allow spontaneous speeches. Is there any delegation wishing to deliver a speech? We will only be entertaining 6 to 7 spontaneous speeches in this set. I think the first one that went up was the one at the back.
I don't have my what?
Is it Switzerland? Can you please write them down as I say them? Thank you. The following delegations have been recognized: Switzerland, Syria, Nigeria, United States of America, Greece, Eritrea, and Guatemala. May you please approach the stage. We would also like to say, may the delegation of Germany please remain seated for the rest of the opening ceremony. If the delegation of Germany does not remain seated for the remainder of the ceremony, they will be escorted out. The delegate of Switzerland, you now have the floor.
Dear Presidency, honorable delegates, bonjour, grüezi, and hello to all of you. First of all, thank you all for participating in this act of security. The UN has always had the purpose of bringing people together, and the Swiss Confederation has always seen itself as a kind of mediator because of our neutrality. So if any of your wealth feels unsafe within your borders because of conflict, consider us as your safekeeper. Our banks are always open for you. So thank you all. I yield the floor back to the Presidency.
Thank you, Delegate. Clapping is not in order. Clapping is not in order. The delegate of Syria, you now have the floor.
Esteemed Presidency, honorable delegates, at the end of last year, the eyes of the world turned to Syria. After more than a decade of civil war, the Syrian people rose up and brought an end to the oppressive regime of Bashar al-Assad. Now there is hope for peace, for stability, and for freedom. We are determined to rebuild our homeland and to forge a future of prosperity and peace. And we are grateful that many countries have lifted their economic sanctions. We hope this trend continues, but we still require international aid to ensure the livelihood of our people. While we pursue peace and cooperation, however, we cannot remain silent in the face of injustice. The Golan Heights remain illegally occupied by Israel and must be returned to Syria. For too long, our nation has been treated as a mere pawn in the grand game of geopolitics. No longer. The Syrian people demand and deserve a future defined by peace, sovereignty, and self-determination. May Allah bless Syria and
Please
guide us
come
towards
to your
peace.
closing remarks.
I yield the floor back to the presidency.
Thank you, Delegate. Clapping is not in order, and note passing is now allowed. I forgot what to say. Okay. Was that Syria or Nigeria? Okay. The delegate of Nigeria, you now have the floor.
Dear chairs, dear delegates, the delegation of Nigeria has heard many great speeches so far and welcomes all international partners to this Model United Nations. But I wanted to make a statement that shouldn't even be necessary. I wanted to remind everybody of the predecessor of the United Nations, the League of Nations, that failed to stop the Second World War. We see numerous global conflicts, be it in Ukraine or Palestine, that rage on besides international condemnation, and we cannot let that happen again. We have to find solutions and urge peace again. We are seeing escalation and we must stop it now. I yield the floor back to the presidents.
Thank you, Delegate. Clapping is not in order. The delegate of the United States of America, you now have the floor.
Honourable Presidency, distinguished delegates. The future does not belong to globalists. The future belongs to patriots. Each nation here has the right to defend its borders and its sovereignty. It is not just a right, it is a duty to its citizens. As the delegation of the United States of America, we are here to cooperate, but not to surrender. We seek partnerships rooted in mutual respect, not dependency. America is always willing to lead, but never at the cost of her sovereignty. To conclude, God bless America, and we yield our time back to the presidency. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. What?
We have seen once again a paper plane again. This is not in order.
May the staff members please notify the perpetrators and identify them as well. Thank you. The delegate of Greece, you now have the floor.
Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, the Hellenic Republic recognizes the urgent need for international cooperation to address different topics such as migration caused by poverty and inequality. As a primary entry point to Europe, Greece has welcomed over 1 million migrants since 2015, including thousands of vulnerable children. We believe migration is a global challenge requiring shared responsibility and deeper collaboration. Greece stands ready to work with all nations to ensure dignity, equity, and effective solutions for all affected. Thank you very much. The delegation of Greece yields the floor back to the presidency.
Thank you, Delegate. Clapping is not in order. The delegate of Eritrea, you now have the floor.
Dear delegates, we stand before you not just as a delegate of Eritrea, but as the voice of a nation that has endured isolation, pressure, and injustice for long times. We have been sanctionized and silenced for too often. Eritrea has chosen his own path, a path of dignity. Today we say enough. We want more attention and respect, especially from nations like the USA. Thank you. I yield back the floor to the President.
Thank you, delegates. Is not in order. Delegates, clapping is not in order. The delegate of Guatemala, you now have the floor.
Dear Presidency, honorable delegates, Guatemala is a country with a long and important history. With colonization by Spain and civil wars in the 20th century, indigenous people were heavily discriminated. We as a country not only condemn the discrimination of indigenous people in the world, but furthermore want to address the ongoing wars in Gaza, Ukraine, and the violation of human rights in Congo, Palestine, and Syria. Let us all remind ourselves of how wars in the past affected the entire world and settle for peace instead of war. Gracias por su atención. Saludados de Guatemala. I yield the floor back to the President.
Thank you, Delegate. Now that this set of opening speeches has come to an end, clapping is in order. We will now move to rights of reply. Again, we will only be entertaining 3 rights of replies. Is there any delegation in the House wishing to exercise their rights of reply? Please raise your placards high. Papua New Guinea? Papua New Guinea, Norway und Libya. Dankeschön. The following delegations have been recognized: Papua New Guinea, Norway, and Libya. The delegate of Papua New Guinea, you now have the floor. Papua New Guinea. The delegate of Papua New Guinea, you now have the floor. Seeing as we cannot identify the delegate of Papua New Guinea, we will now move on to the delegate of Norway. You now have the floor.
Pardon? We, the delegation of Norway, would like to remind, especially the US of America, that agreements and development must be negotiated and not be conditional. Thank you very much.
Thank you, delegate. Clapping is not in order. The delegate of Libya, you now have the floor.
Sovereignty after repeatedly breaching it, from the bombing of our own country of Libya to drone strikes in Yemen and interference in Syria and the invasion of Iraq. Such actions make any lecture on sovereignty not only hypocritical, but dangerous.
Please yield the floor back to the presidency. Okay. Thank you, delegate.
We will now...
Thank you to all the delegates who have presented their spontaneous opening speeches. Clapping is now in order.
We will now guide you through this week's timetable. It is also available in the download section on our website. It is currently Thursday and we are at the opening ceremony. Most of you have already attended the introduction. Later today, all delegates will have the opportunity to take part in the Female Empowerment Panel, which will essentially encourage you to be confident during committee sessions. More information on that will follow later. The barbecue, starting at 7, is for everyone, and it's a nice option to get to know people. Both these activities are at the Graf Anton Günther School. Wednesday will start with the first committee sessions at 9 a.m. Please be on time. During the committee session, the MUN directors are warmly invited to the MUN director breakfast at 10 a.m. After the lunch break, from 12 until 1 p.m., the next committee session starts. Starting at 5 p.m., all chairs and main submitters are required to be at the approval panel to correct and format the resolutions. Afterwards, starting at 7, there will be games like volleyball, which is great to further connect with your fellow delegates. Thursday's committee session will be in identical times as Wednesday's. After the OLMUN party will start at 7 in the Gleis Park for all. After 10, it'll continue at the Club Amadeus, but only people 16 and older will be allowed to enter. Please note that for the club, we have limited capacity, hence you need to buy a ticket first. You can buy your ticket during the afternoon activities. Please remember to bring a valid form of ID to both party venues, additionally to your badge, which you will have to bring to all evening activities. On Friday, there will be one last committee session from 9 until 12:30. After a longer lunch break, the closing ceremony poses the end of OLMUN 2025. If you are confused about the venues, they too can be found on the OLMUN website in the download section and in your conference guide. Now we will be moving to more spontaneous speeches. Again, we will entertain 6 to 7 speeches. Is there any delegation wishing to deliver a spontaneous speech? The delegates of Guyana, Namibia, Yemen, Austria, Qatar, and Croatia have been recognized. Please approach the podium. Livia, you've also been recognized. Please approach the podium. The delegate of Guyana, you've been recognized. You have the stage.
A quarter of a century, from aspirations to reality. That's not just a milestone, it's a testament to what vision, unity, and resilience can build. For us in Guyana, It means turning challenges into opportunity and dreams into action. It means that every step we've taken has brought us closer to the future we once imagined, as this conference is where that future continues, where the ideas spark progress and partnerships can drive change. Welcome, and let's build the next 25 years together in collaboration, peacemaking, and diplomacy. Thank you. We yield the floor back to the panel.
Thank you very much. Clapping is not in order. We will inform you now that taking your jackets off is in order. Clapping is not in order. Again, clapping is not in order. Take your jackets off quietly if you need to. The delegate of Namibia, you have the floor now. Namibia.
Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, today we look back on a quarter of a century. 25 years ago, we shared a common dream: peace, development, and justice for all. Today, we stand at a turning point. While some progress is visible, many goals still seem out of reach. Countries like Namibia are affected by drought, poverty, and structural inequalities and emergencies that reveal how fragile our achievements truly are. Dreams must now turn into deliberate action. Let us work together to ensure that international cooperation does not remain a promise, but becomes a reality for all people, for everyone who needs and will receive help around the world. Thank you. We yield the floor back to the President.
Clapping is not in order. Thank you, delegate. The delegate of Yemen, the floor is yours.
Esteemed chairs, ladies and gentlemen of the delegates, we have heard today many speeches about the wars in Gaza and the war in Ukraine, but what about the wars nobody talks about? Every day, nations such as Yemen are facing the very enemies we as the international community like to condemn oh so much as terrorists, as evil. And yet, we do not spend a single second even talking about them. We cannot truly call ourselves the United Nations if all we care about is those topics which are currently popular in the media. We must address everything, all issues, and that includes the wars that many smaller countries fight today. We yield the floor back to the Presidency.
Clapping is not in order. Thank you, delegate. The delegate of Austria, the floor is yours.
Honourable Chair, esteemed delegates, Austria is honoured to speak to you today as a nation of peace, neutrality and international cooperation. We believe that only working together as countries we can overcome the problems that we're facing today, such as war in Ukraine and overall instability in Europe and around the world. We believe it's necessary and it's vital for us to work together and cooperate to fulfill the intentions of this organization, as we remember how it started. And we also believe that military spending should be cut, and overall prosperity can only be achieved when countries talk to each other and try to achieve the overall mission of this organization. Thank you. Thank you. I yield the floor to the Presidency. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Clapping is not in order. The delegate of Qatar, the floor is yours.
Honourable chairs, dear delegates, on behalf of the state of Qatar, I warmly welcome you to this year's OLMUN. In a world facing crisis from Gaza to Ukraine, Qatar firmly believes in the power of diplomacy, dialogue and mutual respect. As a nation committed to mediation and peace building, we stand for humanitarian solutions, stability and justice. Let us use this forum not only to debate, but to understand and to build a more peaceful world together. Thank you. The floor is yielded back to the Presidency.
Clapping is not in order. Thank you. The delegate of Croatia, the floor is yours.
Dear Secretary and Chairs, it's a great honor to address this esteemed assembly on the behalf of the Republic of Croatia. We, as Croatia, As a proud member of the European Union, NATO, and the global community, we believe that small nations can make a meaningful contribution to global peace and justice. We know this because we have lived it, rising from the devastation of war in the 90s to become a stable democracy, a responsible partner and a bridge between regions. In the face of war, inequality and environment degradations, let us remember the shared purpose that binds us, the dignity of the human person and the hope for a better world. Croatia stands ready to do its part, with humility, resolve and a clear voice for peace. Thank you. I yield the voice back to the Secretary.
You have to yield the floor back to the President, but thank you. The delegate of Libya, the floor is yours.
Honored presidents, esteemed chairs, and delegates, hello and salamu alaikum. The delegation of Libya stands before you today, representing a nation rich in culture, history, and resilience. Though Libya has faced deep challenges like conflict, displacement, and division, our people remain hopeful, striving for peace, stability, and unity. We are here not just to defend national interests, but to engage in meaningful dialogue for a better world. Let this conference be a reminder that even in struggle, there is strength, and in diplomacy, the power to heal. Libya is ready to listen, to learn, and to lead with fairness and compassion. The time is now. Let us strive for stability, trust, and peace for our shared future. Thank you. We yield the floor back to the presidents.
Thank you, delegates. Now that we have come to the end of the set, clapping is in order. Once again, we will only entertain 3 rights of reply. Is there any delegation wishing to entertain a right of reply? Seeing as there is not, is there one? Which delegate is that? It's the United States. United States, you may approach the microphone. The floor is yours. Delegate. You have the floor. You can speak. Well, can our tech people connect with the microphone? Please use the other microphone more at the front.
Ook niet? Welke dan?
We, the delegation of the United States of America, would like to thank all speeches that were heard today. We took note and thought very thoroughly about everything that was said, and we are looking forward to the committee sessions that are to be held this week, these coming days.
Do you yield the floor back to
I
the
yield the
president?
floor back to the presidency.
Thank you. Is there any other delegation wishing to exercise their right of reply? Angola, you've been recognized.
Does this work? Do I go to that one?
Transparency is paramount in dealing with issues in economic and providing security as well as health. However, directed towards the delegation of Libya, as seen with their 2019 scandal regarding NOC chairman Mustafa Sanala, he refused to provide financial disclosures reflecting the country's lack of legal regularities. Thank you.
Is there any other delegation wishing to
The delegation of Angola would like to yield
the floor.
The floor back to the panel. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other delegation? Kazakhstan, you've been recognized.
Honorable chairs, esteemed delegates, the delegation of Kazakhstan would like to point out and appreciate the speech of the delegate of Croatia, because a successful integration into the European Union, as our country aspires to, has been possible for Croatia in every single way. If a country like Croatia, which has suffered so much, can do this, then every country, including Kazakhstan, can. A peaceful, prosperous, and economically viable future is possible for every single country through diplomacy. Thank you. I yield the floor back to the presidency.
Thank you very much. Delegates, thank you very much. You may leave the stage now. Clapping is in order.
For our last and final part of the opening ceremony, note passing is not in order and has officially come to an end. May all the staff members please go back to their positions. May all staff members please go back to their positions. As said, the opening ceremony will now come to an end. Thank you for your speeches, and a special thank you to our guest speakers Svenja Hahn and Christine Wolf. The Female Empowerment panel starts at 6 p.m. at the Graf Anton Günther School, and the barbecue will then begin at 7 p.m. at the same location. You may change out of your formal attire for these events, as the dress code does not apply to evening activities. Thank you for your attention, and we wish you a great rest of your day.